Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video I will show you how to create an iOS plugin using the Swift programming language for Godot Game Engine. So basically I will keep things extremely simple. I will create three methods, one on Swift side. So basically one method on Swift side, it will take two integers, do the addition, return the result back to Godot side. Second method will take some string input, return the string input back to Godot side, and third method will take again a string input and return the data back using signals. So I know this is extremely simple and no one will do something like this in real world example, but the motto of this particular video is help you understand how to create an iOS plugin with Swift. This is very important because if you want to integrate something like a scanner view to scan QR codes or some kind of an API like Game Center, in-app purchases, then you should know how to create a plugin using Swift. I have already created a lot of videos using Objective-C++ for iOS plugin in Godot, but I don't really like Objective-C++. I don't have much knowledge about it. I used to do a lot of trial and errors and then I had to make a tutorial about it. But I feel I have a decent knowledge of Swift, and more importantly, all of the Apple APIs are now in Swift. Behind the scenes they might be still using Objective-C, but while exposing it to developers they are making it Swift first. That's why this is very important. So let's get started. Before I start, I would like to thank this guy Stefan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, Stefan. So yeah, this guy helped me a lot because I was facing a lot of issues and he was kind enough to dedicate his time and help me with all the issues which I'm facing. So yeah, let's get started. So firstly what I have done is that inside my workspace directory I have just created a folder called Godot iOS. Okay, then I'll just open Godot Game Engine. I'm using Godot 4.3.0, but you can use higher version if you want to. I'll just remove this. I'll click on create. I'll just navigate to my Godot iOS folder. I'll select the folder and here I will just name it as my Godot project. You can name it whatever you feel like. Okay, and I'll just click on create and edit, so it will create the project for me. Once that is done, here you can see you should definitely visit this particular URL because it has given all the helpful steps to create an iOS plugin. So I would highly recommend you make sure you go through this. But yeah, I have written all the steps from this particular URL over here, so we don't have to waste too much time. So next is you just have to open Xcode. Now to create an iOS plugin you require Xcode, also you would require macOS, so that's a given. So let's just wait for Xcode to open up, because I have noticed that every time I try to open Xcode it does take a little bit of time. So yeah, let's just wait. In the meantime what I'll do, I'll go back to Godot project. I'll click on 2D scene. Like I told you, we will be creating three methods, right? So I'll just create three buttons. So I'll just create one button and here I will display it. I will just duplicate it, move it down, duplicate it, move it down, and I will also create one more label just to display the output from the methods. So I'll just make it little bit big, something like this. I don't know, first give whatever name you feel like, second, and here I will name it as third. Now I will select all four of this. I will just go to theme overrides, go to font size. I'll just increase the font size to 40, and by default also I'll give some text to our label, something called default. You don't need to do this, but just to be on the safer side I like to do this. Then I'll save this particular scene as well. I'll just click on save. So this scene has been saved. Now I'll click on this. I'll attach one script to it as well. I'll just click on create. So it has attached one script as well. I'll click on save. I'll run this application so that our current scene is selected because it requires an entry point. Okay, so this is also done. I'll just close this. Then again I'll go back to Xcode. Here I'll click on file, new, package. I'm using Xcode 16.1. so yeah, make sure you use the latest one. Inside multi-platform, I will select library. I will click next. I'll click next, and I will give a name as my library. You can feel free to give whatever name you feel like, and I'll just create it inside our Godot iOS folder, not inside our Godot project but inside the Godot iOS folder. I'll click on create. So this creates the library for us. Now the very first thing is, if you see inside my package file, package.swift file, it is targeting Swift 6.0. At least at the time of me recording this video, I have tried using Swift 6.0 even for this simple use case, but this Swift Godot library does not gives me a lot of error, and Swift 6.0 introduces a lot of concurrency features which I don't know anything about. So I'm not really sure if the problem is from Swift Godot side or is there something else. So what I'll do is, I'll just make this as 5.10 and I'll click on save, command S. So this version has been changed, but I think in the future hopefully you won't face any issue. Then inside package.swift, we just have to add this. So I'll just go to package.swift. Okay, let's just go to the documentation. Even I forgot it little bit. So okay, so we have to add dependencies section after products. Okay, so I'll just copy this dependencies, and after products I'll just add it like this. Make sure you add a comma as well, and this is the URL from which it will download the Swift Godot dependency. So I think it is behind the scenes using Swift package manager to download the dependency. Again, I'll just do command S. So here you can see it is fetching Swift Godot and installing all the package dependencies for us. So I think this is very nice. Previously we have to deal with CocoaPods, which was a real pain. Then inside platforms, we have to add iOS version 15. So go to platforms. Okay, so platforms is also not present. So I'll just copy this. Again, I'll just go to the documentation. So after name we have to add platforms. Okay, so I'll come over Xcode. After name I will add platform. Make sure you add a comma. Keep the minimum iOS target as 15. So this is very important for Swift Godot, otherwise again it will result in a lot of errors. I think the current iOS version at the time me recording is iOS 18, so I think this is fine. Next we have to add type dynamic. So let's see where we have to add. Okay, we have to add it after library name. So again I'll just copy this. After name I will add this. Make sure you add comma as well. Okay, then we have to add dependencies Swift Godot. So let's see where we have to add this. Let's scroll down. Okay, we have to add this target. So inside target I'll just add a comma, and then we have to add this particular thing. So okay, I'll just copy this. After our target name I'll add a comma. I'll hit enter, and then I'll just paste this. So something like this. I'll just do proper indentation. So command A, control I. So here you can see something like this. Okay, then in my library.swift. Okay, in my library.swift add. Okay, and we have changed this. So we have changed all this code. Then you will have to go to my library.swift file, and here you will have to write actual code for your plugin. So I'll simply copy paste it from my project. Okay, so the next thing is I have just copy pasted it from my previous project. So what I have done is that I have firstly imported Swift Godot. Now ignore all these errors from Xcode. The reason is this: Xcode does not play nicely with the Swift Godot library. So yeah, that's another pain point. But yeah, ignore all these errors. So here we are importing Swift Godot. Then you have to write this init Swift extension, and here it should be your library name. So my library name was just my library. Then here we have to annotate with @Godot, so Godot can see this, whatever class you define. Again, the class name should be whatever your Swift file name is. And here we have to extend from ref counted. I don't know what this is. This is somewhat related to, I think, C++ and Swift, low level things which I am not really sure about, so I will just ignore this. Then here, if you want to use signals to send some data from this iOS plugin side to Godot side, you will have to register your signal, something like this. Now I'm not sure. Okay, I think there is a documentation for this on this particular website as well. I don't remember the URL, sorry about that, but you can just search on this particular website, like Miguel de Casa website. This migueldecasa.github.io, and you should be able to find documentation on how to send data using signals as well. So using that documentation, I have created one simple signal called output. Arguments is output as well, and here we are sending string data back to Godot side. That's why string.self. Here I have defined one method called callable. Again, this is annotation is important so that Godot can know about it. A method name is addition. It takes two integers and return back an integer, so I'm just returning the addition of these two integers. Then here I have defined another method called hello, which takes an input of type string and returns string as well, and while returning I'm just appending hello as a prefix to whatever string you pass from Godot side. And third method I have called hello2, which again takes an input, and here we have to use something like this signal with one argument of type string, and this particular name should match whatever you have defined over here. So this and this should match, and here I am calling emit, passing our signal, and this is what I want to send it back to Godot side. But yeah, you use whatever you feel like. Okay, so this was the URL. Sorry, it was in front of me all the whole time. So you can go to this particular URL to understand. If you want to do more complex signal, so yeah, you go to this URL to do this. Again, this is not really easy. I think in somewhat it is using I think this is called macro, which again I don't have much knowledge about. So yeah, like even I was little confused, but somehow I figured it out with a bit of luck. But yeah, that's it for this particular file. Okay, next we have to create this build.sh file inside our my library folder. So what I'll do is, inside VS Code, I'll just go to our Godot iOS folder and I will open my library inside VS Code. Now you can do this via Xcode as well, but what I have noticed is that Xcode does not play nicely and it's very easy to make issues. That's why I'm using VS Code for this. And now you will again have to go to this Godot iOS extension and you will have to copy this build.sh. So first I'll create this particular file, build.sh. So I'll just create this and I'll just copy all the code from this particular repo. Do command C, I will do command V. Now we'll have to make few changes. The first change which we will have to make is regarding this particular scheme. So I'll quickly make all the changes and come back. Okay, so there are two changes which I made. First one was the schema name. So the schema name should be your library name, and for me it was my library. So yeah, I'm using the same thing. And make sure I have also added this skip macro validation. Because of this, if you don't add this while building our plugin, I was getting a lot of issues. So that's why I have added this skip macro validation as well. So two things: change the schema name and make sure you add this as well, this thing as well. Once that is done, again I'll go back to my cheat sheet. So yeah, this is done. Then we just have to cd to our library. So I'll just close this. I'll go to my library folder where it is present, Godot iOS. So this is my library. I'll just cd into it. I'll clear everything out. Okay, then to run this build.sh, first we have to do this change mod. So I'll do something like this. Okay, then I'll just run this particular command. Now I am running it for debug mode because I'm not creating a release application for our Godot project as well. But if you want release mode, you can replace this debug with release as well. I'll just do this. Now this will take little bit of time, so let it do its thing. In the meantime, I'll come back to my Godot project. I'll add press signal for all these three buttons. I'll connect them. Okay, then I'll just take our label. I'll create a reference for it as well. Okay, it is not working. Let me try one more time. Okay, yeah, something like this. Okay, so I have added few code inside my GD script file as well. So let me quickly show it to you. So firstly, you have to create this variant of my library, and inside the onReady function, we are just checking whether this particular plugin exists or not. We haven't added our plugin to the Godot project. We'll add it in a bit. So here we just check whether this particular thing is present inside of our project or not. If yes, then initialize it. Okay, and here we also connect our signal. The signal name is same what we used it inside the iOS folder, iOS file, sorry. So make sure you use the same name, and on first button press, I'm just checking if library is initialized. If yes, then just call the addition method out of it. Pass the two numbers, whatever is the value, display it inside our text label, sorry. On second button press, same thing, call the hello method, pass string to it, whatever value you get, display it inside our label. For third button, call the hello2 method, and here we are not getting the data as a return type, but instead we are getting it via signal. And if you see, for signal I have connected it to this method. So once this method is called, we just do label.text, pass data to it, so str data. So yeah, that's it. Next we'll have to create a bin folder. So I'll just create a bin folder over here. Okay, and here I think we'll have to create one file. Now again, this does not look good to me. So what I'll do is I will open it inside VS Code, our Godot project. So again, I'll come over here, I'll go to Godot iOS. So this is my Godot project. Okay, and inside bin we have to create this particular file, my library.gd extension. So I'll just go to my Godot project bin folder, and here I will just name it as my library.gd extension, and here we have to copy this bit of code. So I'll just copy this. Again, instead of my library.gd extension, if your package name is different, make sure you name it as different. So whatever is your library name.gd extension, and then you just have to define this entry point as Swift entry point. Compatibility minimum is 4.0 of Godot, and iOS debug for libraries. If you are using release, then iOS.release. Same over here as well, iOS.release. I'm using debug, so that's why. And here you just have to write whatever is your plugin name .framework, and here we have to write Swift Godot.framework. So if I come over here, okay, this particular thing failed, requires minimum, but this target supports 15. Okay, so what I can do is I'll just go to Godot project, requires target supports 15. Swift Godot requires minimum platform version. I am not sure if like previously Swift Godot was supporting 15 version. Maybe they have updated the target version. I'm not really sure about this. So what I'll do is, previously it used to work fine. I'll just update this to 17, I guess. Maybe they have added some new features which are only supported from Swift 17, iOS 17, I guess. So maybe that's why. Now again, this will take little bit of time, so be patient. Once this particular thing is completed, basically what we'll have to do is we'll have to go to our library folder, and it will create a bin folder inside our library. So from that we will get these two particular files. So if I open VS Code, we will get this my library.framework as well as Swift Godot.framework inside the bin folder. I'll just close this. Okay, next, yeah, let's just wait for this to complete. Once this is complete, I'll come back. Okay, given that this is taking a little bit of time, what you can do is go to project, export, add iOS, click on this fix import button. Now you will firstly need to add your app store team id. To get your app store team id, you can go to this particular URL and it will tell you how to get your app store team id. So I won't go into that details, so make sure you add your app store team id. I'll add it later on. And then you will have to also give a bundle identifier. So here I will just give it as my awesome Godot game, but typically you should give it your company name dot your app name, but yeah, just for simplicity sake I'll just keep things simple. Make sure you give your app store team id as well. Okay, so here you can see my command was successful. Now I don't know, previously when I tested this for the very first time, it was supporting till iOS 15.0. I think they might have increased it to 17.0 for Swift Godot. So yeah, unfortunately that's the thing. We'll have to update it to iOS 17 as the minimum. But anyways, so now that is done. So this is done. Here you can see inside my library folder it has created the bin folder, and it has inside iOS it has created these two files. So I'll just copy these two files. I'll go back to my Godot project. I'll go to bin and I'll just paste it like this. So here these names are very important, my Swift Godot and whatever is your plugin name. And if you see, if I just open this GD extension file inside VS Code, here you can see same name I'm using over here as well. If you use some wrong name or different name, it will not work. So this is done. Now what I'll do, I'll just create an iOS folder over here. You don't have to do it, but I like to, because we need to export our project from Godot. I know some of you might be thinking we can directly run it on a real device. Again, make sure you run it on a real device. Don't run it on a simulator. It doesn't really work for me, but yeah, maybe it will work for you, I don't know. But I like to run it on a real device. Also, some of you might be knowing that we can run it on a real iOS device via Godot engine itself, via, I think there is some library iOS deploy or something like that. It doesn't really work for me. That's why I like to export my project. I know it's little bit tedious if you want to test it again and again, but yeah, I think it's fine. Just click on project, export. I'll click on export project. I'll go back to our iOS folder. So this is my iOS folder. I'll click on save. Now again, this will take a little bit of time. So once the project is exported, we will have to open it inside Xcode and then run it on a real device. Okay, so here you can see my export was successful. I'm getting this warning, but this is fine. I'll go to my iOS folder over here, and then I will just have to double click on this .xcode proj file, and it will automatically open it inside Xcode. Now here you can go to your project and go to sign in and capabilities, and here you will have to make sure you are signed in with whatever is your Apple team ID. So yeah, this is very important. Otherwise, because for running on a real device, you will have to sign in with your team. Otherwise you won't be able, like Xcode won't allow you to run it on your real device due to security issues. Now I will just run it on my real device and show you guys the output. Okay guys, so here is the output. I'm running it on my real iPad device. I'll just click on the first button, and here you can see I'm getting 9 on my label. I'll click on the second button, I get hello nobody, and click on third button and I get hello to nobody. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.